Today we are back with the Amstrad PPC640 and we have got a whole load of stuff. So we are going to make something. Let's do it. Now, if you haven't seen the previous video where we took a initial look at this machine, then the link is up in the top corner there. Go and have a little look and we'll wait for you to watch that and come back. Okay, good. So you've seen that. Now, the problem that we have with this machine is that this screen has this, I don't know if you call it a delamination, but it's a problem with the LCD in this bottom corner. I would guess it's got wet or something, and it doesn't work where that damage is. And in any case, the rest of the screen is so washed out and low contrast and very hard to read because, of course, it does not have a backlight, that we really want to do something about it. And so I have got, at great expense from China, a USB cable. No, that's not what I've got. I've got this little PCB and a colour LCD screen, which is 4x3. Whoops. What it really needs is a wedge at the back. That would be a very useful thing to have on this machine. Maybe I could 3D print one. That's a thought. But what this is it's an 8-inch 4x3 LCD, which should fit exactly there. And it is colour. So it's a TFT colour RGB screen that takes an HDMI signal through this little panel here. And that plugs into there like that. And then we've got, I think this is mini HDMI. We should be able to fit that into there. And then we need to take the CGI signal from this, and we've got CGI on the back panel here. We should be able to take that and feed it to this. And we're going to feed it to this through one of these. And this came from our friends at PCBWay.com. And this is, let's cut it open, see what we've got. This cost us just $5. And these boards are yellow. Why? Because I like yellow. This is an RGB to HDMI. So this takes a CGA signal and goes in one end, and it goes to a Pi 0, and the Pi 0 converts that signal to HDMI, and you output it from the Pi 0 into this board and to that screen. So hopefully we should be able to replace this LCD panel with this LCD panel and have a CGA color screen. So I got the PCBs because I couldn't find any pre-built ones online. In any case, I want at least 3 of these because I want one for this machine here, and I also want one for my 128 and my 128D in 80 column mode. So I'm going to build several of these up. I've got enough parts for, in fact, all of them. So this is an open source project which you can get all the details from Github. I will give you the link in the description, and they are made by this guy called Hoglit, whose name is Stephen Banks. And in order to get these made, all you need to do is get the Gerber files from the GitHub, upload them to PCBWay, select your color and the number that you want, and off you go. If you take China Post, then it will take about 10 days to come, but come it will, and here they are. So shall we make some of these up? Let's see what we've got inside this package. RGB to HDMI 12-bit issue 4. Now the more astute among you are going to be saying, hang on, haven't you already opened this package and haven't we already seen the PCBs? Well, yes, but there was a problem. You see, there are about 4 different RGB to HDMI boards and I ordered the wrong one. So I had to order some more, and these are they've arrived, and I do believe these are the right ones. So let's take a look at the GitHub and see how we need to build this. Obviously we need to put the processor on there, but we've also got a couple of resistors there, some capacitors, and there, of course. So we need to check what they are and where they go. Okay, so this is the GitHub page, and we can see that this looks rather like the board that we've got, which is handy. Gives you all the description about it. I'll put the link in the description. So we want the bill of materials. So there we go. 1K0805s, R1 to R5 and R7, and a resistor network. So this is just the only surface mount one. We're only really interested in the surface mount ones to start with. C1 is 10 microfarads 0805 MLCC, and C2 to C4 is 100 nanofarads 0805 MLCC. MLCC, of course, is a multi-layer ceramic capacitor. Semiconductors, the what do you call it, XC doody, which is that. We've got that. 3mm green LEDs. Other colours are available. That could be anything. Switches, spacers, etc. So we have 1K resistors, and we have the one C1 is 10 microfarads. Right, so let's get making. So this was a Christmas present to myself, and this looks like it's going to be the ideal opportunity to give it a try. So what this is a PCB heating plate. The idea is you stick this on the top, put your components on, heat it up, and it magically solders. Let's have a look. This came from AliExpress in their sale. English manual, that's a good start. European plug, oh well, never mind, we will get rid of that. It's a standard kettle lead, so we've got plenty of those. And this is it. So this plugs in here. Off. I'm not going to plug it in just yet. We've got intelligent temperature control, it says. Okay, so I'll worry about that when we come to start it up. Right, I've got the components here, 1K resistors, 10 microfarad capacitors, 100 nanofarad capacitors. Far more than we need because minimum quantities and stuff. These came from RS, and I've opened the packet. This is interesting. It comes in a very heavy duty QFP 10x10 by 1.4. So I bought 10 of these for the 10 boards. Now interestingly, we've got a spare because they actually supplied 11. So we've got a chance to get it wrong. Okay, I'm not going to cut that open until we actually need it. And of course I've got a tube of solder paste. So the first thing that we're going to do is clean the PCB. And we're just going to use some isopropyl alcohol. Let's give it a good dousing. And rub it down. That will get rid of any grease and so on off the board. Okay, that's the right way round. Right, I'm going to start with the resistors. So there's 6 of those. So what we do is put some solder onto the pads. That's going to be way too much. Now the last thing to do is the chip. That is pin 1 as witnessed by the circle. I'm going to assume that I put too much paste on here. Right, that looks to be pretty much right. Right, switch it on. That's quite an interesting display. It says it's currently at 20 degrees C and it's set for 400. I don't want it to go that hot. Let's ramp that down. 280 set, and you can see that the temperature is climbing up. $125. There is some smoke coming off. So I think in future we don't need it to be anything like that hot. So I've taken the PCB off the heater. I may have overcooked it a little bit because it was definitely too hot for this solder, but we'll see how we get on. Now this chip, you can see, has got a lot of bridges. There is far too much solder. So I'm going to get some flux and let's see if we can unbridge this. So I'm going to go down that side to start with. I think we're going to have to put some solder braid on it. That's okay, it seems to have done the trick. There's still a bridge there. Didn't get it. That got it. So that looks pretty good. Let's go around to this side. Now that pin looks like it may not have even made contact. Hopefully I'll get better at this and have a more appropriate level of solder on the next one. Okay, so what this needs now is a good old scrub. So now let's go and ping the legs and see if they are all connecting. Yep, they look good. They look good. Okay, so I'm just going to clean that board again and then we can start fitting the other components. So here we have the remaining bits. So we've got two LEDs, resistor packs, connectors and some switches. On the top side we have the LEDs and the switches, so let's do those. So these are labelled plus and minus. The long end is the plus and the end with the flat on it is the minus, and it's very hard to tell on these 3mm ones. But that goes on there like that, and again that way round. Bend those out, and let's just solder one end. Just straighten these up. That's fine. It's always a good idea to hold the leads as you clip them off. That way they don't go flying. Right, and the switches, these only go one way because they're actually slightly rectangular. Right, just solder those in. I should have done this before. Now these, you can see there's the dot. And this one, not strictly needed if we don't have this connector in. And we don't necessarily need this connector in. I'm only going to do one end, then we can adjust them. There we go, it just makes them sit upright. Okay, so this goes in here. This is going to be our connector. And one last thing is the connector for the Raspberry Pi. So again, we'll just solder one end. Okay. Okay, that should be it. I'm going to clean that off. So the final thing that we need to do with this is program the CPLD, and to do that we need the Raspberry Pi. Now this has got a compact flash, and that has already got the software on it, which I downloaded from the RGBtoHDMI GitHub page. So what we need to do is plug this into this, like that, and then plug a cable into this. Now I can't use the monitor that I'm intending, or the panel that I'm intending to use, because it takes a mini HDMI like this, and the only cable I've got has got mini HDMI on one side and full HDMI on the other. Now I've got a small regular HDMI monitor that is basically a Raspberry Pi monitor, and so we can plug this into that. Has a regular HDMI port. I've got an extra one of these for a mini HDMI on order, but it hasn't arrived yet. So we should be able to just switch this on, power this up, and it will come up with some programming info. And we need another USB, mini USB for the Pi Zero. I think it probably goes in this one. Something's happening. Yay. CPLD is unprogrammed. Select correct CPLD. Ah. I think it's this one. RGB. It's not BBC. So I guess we press one of the other buttons at this point. That's reset, so we don't want to press that. There we go. Programming. Successful. So that has now programmed the CPLD, and it's ready. We've got a green light on there, and it's ready for us to put into the Amstrad. Now to get that button doing reset, we had to put an extra 2-pin interface on there. You can just sort of see it. So an extra 2 pins go to the Pi. Right, good. So for the initial test, we're going to plug it into the external CGA port on the Amstrad, and we need a cable for that, and so I've just made up this regular 9-pin D-sub cable to sort of regular RGBI specifications, and we could use this on a Commodore 128. And the other end goes to DuPont connectors, so these are going to go into here. The wiring diagram is in the wiki as before. We just need to put the shield on to the Pi. There we go, like that. And that is finished. Now we can put some standoffs in here. I'll probably do that once it's finished, because otherwise that will sort of wobble. But for now, what we need to do is attach it to the Amstrad. Okay, so here we have the PPC. Our little RGBtoHDMI is plugged into the CGA port at the back. The dip switches on the side are set to use the external monitor. We just need to connect power to the screen. power to the Pi, and our little wall wart to give us power to the Amstrad. Okay, so we should be able to power it on. Please wait, it says. CRT. Amstrad Portable PPC, copyright 1987. Set time and date. Okay, can you read that? Okay, so I've got it going. There were a number of problems which I fixed off screen. First was that the connectors inside here had disconnected from the plug, so that was crappy soldering on my part, but that is fixed. I had connected one of these pins up to the wrong thing. It was the intensity wire, and that was yeah, just going to the wrong pin. So we had no blue, we had no intensity, and that's why we had this strange orange colour on the screen. Then I had to double check this cable, ribbon cable. I could get it to work with a standard HDMI with 2 adapters on, but it wasn't working with this, and I discovered that I'd actually put these little what do you call them, end connectors that go to the ribbon cable. This is a flex ribbon cable, and there's a sort of clampy on connector, and I managed to get them the wrong way around because there is no real way of knowing without having tried it. And I got myself this little tester which is for HDMI cables, and that was able to verify that that cable was actually now working. And this came from Amazon. It cost me about 16 quid. I'll just show you work on this other cable. It's very simple. You just plug the cable into each end. It takes full HDMI, mini HDMI, micro HDMI. There you go. You just plug it in and it lights up to see that the cable is working. And this works, and all the connectors are connected except for pin 17, which is according to the spec, and it's got the spec on the back. Pin 17, reserved brackets not connected. So I'll put a link to this in the description if you want one. It'll be an affiliate link that will help out the channel if you do decide to buy it. So, right, everything is now plugged in. Let us give it a go. Click. Takes a moment. There we go. We can do something about that. I have got one of these. This is a Dallas chip replacement. Takes a CR2032, plugs into the Dallas chip in there, and we can have a real-time clock. We'll do that when we open it up. So, notice white text now. So I've got a disk in the B drive which has got a utility on it that will give us a test of the CGI capabilities. So we just run this program, give it a parameter 3. So that gives us the character set. This is in 80 column mode. We can do it in 40 column mode as well. And that's all the colours. And you can see high intensity, low intensity. And we've got brown and yellow. Blue, green, cyan, red, magenta, brown, grey, dark grey, light blue, light green, light cyan, light red, which is kind of almost orange, light magenta, yellow and white. So that's all our colours. That is our display. If I do CT0, that's the 40 column character set, and you get the same color bars. So the next thing to do is open this up and put this in. I'm still a little bit suspect of this because it does occasionally still blank out and lose signal. Now it's definitely not the cable because I have tested the cable, so I don't know if it is actually a problem with this. I've also thought maybe it was the USB power because it's a USB-C, and I'm always suspicious of USB-C power supplies. Sometimes they don't work. Sometimes it could be my power bank, which is this sort of, that could be causing the problem, I don't know. But I plugged that into my bench power supply as a test. I've got a little USB-C cable with some tails on it, and that went basically to my bench power supply, and that had exactly the same problem. It was blanking out and flashing, and it was drawing about 0.7 amps. But we can go ahead with this and put it all in and see if it actually goes while it's plugged in. I mean, it hasn't blinked for a while now. So I've already taken the back off and unscrewed the PCB, and we have to figure out how to get the screen out. This is the cable that goes, top one is to the keyboard, underneath that one, the white one, is for the screen. So I think we need to take this clamp out. Okay, the video cable was underneath that. So we need to take the white cable off. And that's disconnected, so there we go. It just snaps out. And now we can have a look at the screen. Okay. So there are 4 screws in the back. It's a surprisingly simple mechanism, but I think the problem is going to be that it relies on 40-year-old brittle plastic. Okay, so we've got a screen of 2 halves. That's a kind of nice board, but it's a broke screen. So we'll put that to one side. The problem that we're going to have with this is that there's quite a lot of space, quite a lot of play, so the cable has to come out of there, and we're going to use this. It also has to come out of there. You know what this calls for? Gaffer tape. So what we want to do is put some foam or something in behind here to hold it down. But in order to secure it, I'm going to use some gaffer tape. We should do before we position that properly, actually, Very satisfying. Peel off the plastic. Right, so it should be protected, insulated with the Kapton tape, held down with the gaffer tape and with the blue masking tape. Okay, I've got some layers of bubble film that can go in here. So we should need to fold that down like that, and that goes in there like that. And these should now just go out of this hole. Like that. Like that. Goes in there, goes in there. That's looking good. So we don't need the video cable anymore, the keyboard cable is still fine. Feed the wires through. There we go. Now we're going to need to feed this into the battery compartment. Although we could, because this has a problem that it's too big, it's not going to fit in there. Because, let's just feed that through here for now. Make sure it's going to going to be tight. We could cut a section of that out. We're going to need to drill a slot to feed. Okay, so on reflection I'm going to put the RGB to HDMI here where the modem is, so I'm going to take this out because it is non-destructive and we can always put this back at another time if we so choose to do. So we need to disconnect this. Because I'm not just going to cut this cable. Now, back in the day, this was probably a highly illegal act. But we can see what's underneath. Hopefully. Okay. It is in fact soldered in. That's kind of a shame. So we're going to have to take this off and figure out how to get the cable out. Okay, right, so this goes to here. I think once we've removed this, it will just come out. There we go. So that can go somewhere else. Now, while I've got this apart, there is one thing that I can do that is a nice little mod that I've been wanting to do, and that is to replace this clock chip with this, which is the Necroware Dallas chip replacement. Here we go. It's the NWX287 by Necroware, and you can see it's got a much more efficient real-time clock chip and crystal and everything, and it takes a CR1220 battery, which is specifications show the unit could use CR1220 or CR1225. However, the battery installed but PCBWay seems to require the 1220. But that is a CR1616, which is a totally, I think, yeah, totally different size. I might have a 1220. I've got 1225, and I've got 1220. Okay. This, I think, is the wrong battery. Right. Okay, let's not worry about that. This has to go in there where this chip is. This is the same as it is in the Amstrad PC640 and 1640, and it requires 4 AA batteries to keep it going, or indeed the 10 C cells. So I'm going to fire up the soldering iron and take that out. You get value for money with these builds. In theory, I could have made a separate video about that, but it would mean putting all this away and then getting it all out again. So while it's open, we might as well do it now. Okay, there we go. Hold it down with a bit of tape. And we do our usual thing of tack the corners and then do the rest of it. There we go. Okay, so now in goes okay, there it is. So let's try a 1220. There we go, that's snapped in. So we can put this together and start fitting this. Okay, so I've had a change of heart and I'm now going to put it in the modem bay. I've taken the modem out. As you can see, that was a bit of a faff getting the cable out, but the advantage of putting this in here, tum-ty-tum-ty-tum, is that it's reversible. We don't have to cut any plastic and we can always take it out and put the modem back if we need to. And also there was a Patreon poll that said do it this way rather than the other way, so that's what we're going to do. Now I've wired up a little USB cable and this also USB cable, and these are basically connected to one of the filter caps, because we know that there's 5 volts across those, and so we've got our power to both the Raspberry Pi and the screen. And I've also wired up a cable from the back of the CGA port out to another CGA connector, so we can just literally plug it straight into what we had before. And that just makes it easy to do it. I don't have to rewire this. But we did have one minor disaster, and that is this. This is the 7905 minus 5 volts regulator, and it kind of just broke off. I didn't have one spare. I had to go out and order some, and I've got some. So obviously this is a few days later, and the first thing that we need to do before we can start putting this together is to replace this regulator. So that actually goes onto this board and it goes here. So we need to unsolder that and then fit a new one. I left that in because I wanted to make sure that I knew which way round it goes, and it goes that way round, like that, because it's face down onto the thing. And I'm going to recover this little sleeve and reuse that on the new regulator. Okay, I'm going to cut this cable tie just to make it easier to handle all the cables, and we will put a new one on. So this is our voltage regulator. There we go. So we'll just clean that up. Okay, so that goes on the middle. Let's double check 7905. Goes in there like that. Okay, I've double checked that that's the right way round. And there we are. Now I'll just take the old one off this heatsink. Put some fresh thermal compound on there, and let's put the new one on. And that's that sorted. So Right, we are getting there. Oh, one other thing that I do have to deal with. That Dallas chip replacement that we put in, I don't know if you can see it, it's actually too tall. I'm going to need, because it pushes right up against there and bends the PCB, I'm going to need to redo that without the heatsink. But we'll give it a try first and see if it actually runs. One thing I didn't realise when I put this tape on is that, of course, there is a hole there for right. That should hold it on. So this, I've put some spacers on there, so that's going to be holding that rigid. And hopefully that will be okay. That is power for this. That goes into there. I'm not going to worry about fastening that down yet, because we want to try it first. That goes into there. What I will do is just tack some tape on it. There we go, just to hold it down for the time being. So let's plug it in. Let's see if it works or if we've killed it. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Ho hum. Well, in typical fashion, it looks like I've managed to clutch defeat from the jaws of victory. Far as I can tell, there is nothing going on this board. I've checked the 7905. That is giving -5 volts as expected. There is not a single thing on the video output. I've double checked the dip switches. I've scoped out the CPU and there is nothing happening on the CPU. All the pins are flatlined. The floppy drive clicks and it reacts when you put a disk in it, but I suspect that's just the disk controller. So I don't know what I've done. I've obviously killed it in the act of wiring up the screen, add in that, and add in that, and fixing that. I think this is going to require some research. Okay, panic over. I did some reading up and that suggested that If the machine doesn't get enough juice, then it will shut down. And in that case, there's going to be no bus activity or nothing. And it might periodically try to start up again, but it won't get very far and it will shut down. And then it will start up again and then it will shut down. And that may well be what the disk drive clicking was. So I had a look at my wall wart, and you can see it's rated, or at least it claims to be rated, 12 volts at 2 amps. And I think that might be optimistic. So I hooked up the bench power supply and set it to 12 volts and 2 amps. And let us see what happens. So activate it, switch it on, don't panic, it takes a moment to start up. Okay, that's the display starting, we can get rid of that. And there it is. Now I'm going to set today's date, so we'll see. It's got the Dallas chip in it, so we'll see if it actually remembers it. And it is 29th of March 2025. Current time is 1953. And there we have it. We can go to our B drive as we've done before. And there's our RGBI color display. You can see we have all 16 colors. The difference between intensity and non-intensity doesn't seem to be very high, but it's definitely there. You can certainly see black, black and grey black. Oops. So used to my Mac. Ah, I got. But there you can see it, and so let's turn the machine off and turn it back on again and see if it remembered our date. I don't know if it will or not. Yes, 29th of March 2025. So we've got a colour screen and we've got a working real-time clock. You may have noticed that there was no sound playing Dig Dug. The reason for that is that the speaker is in the base and I haven't got the base attached. Whoops! Shouldn't have done that. So the next thing that I want to do is fit some sort of hard drive to it. Now it won't be internal because I want to keep both of the floppies, but I have an idea for an expansion to go on the back, and that will give us 3 ISA slots, and we can use a XT to compact flash adapter, and that will give us modern storage and a hard drive, and we can start installing stuff and play some proper games and stuff. Still to do is, at the moment, I need to put the back on, but first I do need to take the Dallas chip off and remove the socket because it needs to be lower profile. It's currently bending the PCB and I don't want it to do that. So I'll do that off camera, and that will be it. Thank you for watching. If you've got this far, please like and subscribe to see the next exciting chapter of Amstrad PPC. And thank you to my patrons who are scrolling up the screen. If you would like to support me via Patreon, then check out the link in the description, and all support is greatly appreciated. You do get early access and some other perks, and occasionally exclusive videos. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. See ya. Bye.